Welcome to this episode of Unraveling Adoption, a safe space to delve into adoption's complexities together. I'm Beth Syverson. I'm an adoptive mom of a 19-year-old son, Joey, who is in recovery from addiction and who is struggling to find his path. I'm walking beside him while working on my own personal growth and healing. We are committed to helping anyone touched by adoption, and we want to help the general public understand adoption's complexities better too. Today's guest is Ann Weaver Melendy from Oregon. She's a baby scoop era adoptee. We'll explain what that is if you don't know. And she was taught by her adoptive family to not speak about her adoption and to not ask any questions. Well, that backfired big time because not only is she now sharing her story on this public podcast and elsewhere, but she is also an adoptee rights advocate. Ann is particularly bothered that adoptees' vital records often don't include the true data about their birth date, birth parents, and more. She has fought for her own birth certificate to list the correct information, and she won. Her ingenious approach to adoptees' rights will inspire other adoptees to fight for their own corrected documents. So welcome to Unraveling Adoption, Ann. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me, Beth.
Yes. So before we hear about your legal work in the realm of birth certificates, please share a summary of your adoption story with our listeners.
Yes, I was adopted at a young age. I was born an unhealthy baby, so I stayed in the hospital. Then when I was well enough, I went into foster care. When the foster family needed respite care, my parents were called. They were waiting for a boy, and they were in line for a boy because they didn't want a girl. But after when they saw me, my mother fell in love with me, and then my father agreed that they could keep me.
Aww.
And so I grew up in Lake Oswego, Oregon. It's a very nice town, pretty rich kind of a town, and I have lots of friends there. Played sports, was in Bluebirds, campfire, did things for nursing homes. I was in band and choir all seasons. I kept myself busy to keep my mind occupied because I didn't like being alone and letting my mind wander.
Mm-hmm. I can relate to that. I'm not adopted, but I can relate to that. Just kind of let's fill it up with stuff so I don't have to feel the painful feelings that are underneath everything. Okay, well, that makes sense. And then when did you become aware that your access to your birth certificate and its truthfulness was not like non-adopted people? When did that search begin?
Yes. After when I found my birth mother, I don't know how the conversation came about, but I told her that my birthday was on January 8th. And she said, no, it's not. She said, you were born on January 6th. What are you talking about? And I said, no, I said, my birthday is on January 8th. And that's when I celebrate it every year, you know. She said, absolutely not. So I called my adoptive parents. They were furious that I went behind their back to go find her. But then I had to call and ask them about my birthday.
Yeah.
And they knew about it.
Oh.
And I was like, so all these years, for 21, 22 years, I've been celebrating the wrong day. And they told me that it didn't matter because they didn't get me until March. Oh. And I was just like, this is crazy. When you're a little kid, it's important to have your birthday on your birthday. Who's the oldest kid of the class? You know, who's the youngest? You know, those things matter, when you're in second grade. And here all this time I had my birthdays on the wrong day. I was really upset about it.
How did they get that mixed up? What happened there?
This is what I was told by a lady that worked at Vital Records back in the day, because I had called to get it changed because I really needed them to know that they made an error and that we just need to simply correct it.
Okay.
Wrong answer. That's not how you deal with Vital Records.
Oh, okay. They don't like to be told they were wrong.
Yeah.
They get defensive. Okay.
And so they told me I could contact an attorney. Well, I was 22. Number one, who's got money for an attorney?
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh.
And so anyways, I finally got a hold of a very nice attorney. He took the time to speak with me over the phone and kind of, felt out the circumstances. And he was really nice until we got to the payment plan. Then it was like it was going to be $25,000.
What?
Yeah, $25,000. And that did not mean that the judge would rule in my behalf. that I needed to come up with half of it first if I was serious. Well, I told
my
them I was
God.
serious, but I didn't have that kind of money.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was a single parent at 21. There was no extra money.
Geez.
So I decided I was going to celebrate it on the 6th and the 8th.
Yeah, why not? Give yourself 2. That's a good idea. You deserve it after all that. Now, why, maybe you can't even figure this out, but why can't they just change a mistake? That seems like that's not that hard to do. What was the big issue with the vital records people?
You cannot change it because the doctor has signed off on it.
And why did the doctor, it was just a mistake, or was it some sort of cover up for something, or?
Well, this is what I've been told since then. And of course, Vital Records isn't going to come out and say, hey, that's what we did.
Yeah.
But I've been told since then that if they felt that a birth mom was going to be a threat, or that the child, the innocent little tiny 5-pound baby, was going to be a threat, that they would change the birth date because that was an identifier. And this is way before DNA.
Okay, because you would look on your birth date and find the birth mother's name, and then you can find the birth mother. Oh my God.
And so
That
it's
makes
heartbreaking.
sense. Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. But then the other tattletale sign, and I have not been able to confirm 100% that this is true, but your birth certificate has got 11 numbers. The first 3 are the area code of your state.
Okay.
Then it's followed by 11 numbers. I was told that the very last number is your birth date. If it was a 10, it would end in a 0. If it was a 22, it would end in a 2. Mine is a 6.
Okay.
I don't know if that's state by state. I haven't confirmed it. I put out a little blurb in one of the groups and asked them, hey, does anybody have their birth certificate available? Can they agree with this?
Okay.
So who knows?
Well, it just stinks that $25,000 to make them change something that they effed up in the first place for a stupid reason. Ugh.
If the judge ruled in my behavior.
If you could even get it done. That is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not even your whole story either, but it's just one of many things wrong with your birth certificate, right?
Yeah.
And so many people, so many adoptees have this issue, whether they know it or not.
Yes, exactly. Whether they know it or not, because it was a common practice, unfortunately.
Yeah, that just is terrible. So when your birthday comes around, and we're recording this on January 4th. So in 2 days and then in 4 days, you're going to have your birthday twice. How do you feel on either of those days? Are they the same? Like, how do you manage your birthdays?
So on the 6th, I celebrate now because I spoke with my father for the first time over the phone on the 6th. So up until the age of 50, from the age of 21 until 50, it was a very gloomy day. It was the rain cloud day over my head.
Okay.
Then the 8th would come around and it would be a knockback, but I would, put the smile on, whether you feel smiley or not.
Yeah. Because then the people will have a party for you or whatever. You do the birthday party thing. Okay.
Sure. So it's just smile time.
Yeah. But so a couple of years ago, you met your dad and spoke to him for the first time on your real birthday.
Yes.
So tell us about that reunion.
Yes. He showed up on Ancestry on the day before my 50th birthday.
Wow.
And I was shocked beyond all belief. I had just gone to bed crying earlier, like 5 hours earlier, asking God to please lift this burden off of my heart, that I wanted to live the next 50 years happy, that I didn't want this weight, just holding me down.
And was that pressing on you because it was the day before your birthday? Is that?
I think it was because it was the day before my real birthday, and just one of those things,
Mm-hmm.
And so he popped up 5 hours later on Ancestry on my phone. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've gone against Ancestry's terms and agreement. What have I done in my sleep? I remember sticking the phone down on my nightstand. I don't remember touching it since then. So I turned my phone off just as fast as I could, before Ancestry busted me down.
Why did you think you were in trouble?
Because there's terms and agreements that you say that you will comply with, that you won't go and, I don't know, look at other people's stuff if they're not related, or I don't know.
You thought that you had done something wrong inadvertently.
Yeah, in my sleep,
Oh my gosh. Oh.
And so I was just like, oh my gosh. But then I turned my phone back on and there was this man, but it was on my phone. So, it's just a little tiny picture. So I enlarged it because I'm old, so I enlarged it so I could see. And I was like, oh my God, that's my dad.
Yeah.
We thought we had already found my father by using DNA, by going down the wrong branch. And he happened to be considering and had started his campaign running for U.S. president.
Whoa.
He on my sister's birth certificate.
Whoa.
And so then this sister and I, we looked similar. So we were like, oh, well, maybe we're full sisters. And here we thought we were half,
Okay.
We didn't know. So I bought her a DNA test to find out. And her results hadn't came back yet. And so anyways, we just thought it was the guy running for U.S. president. And that was a trip to read that in the newspaper. I was like, I'll crash his party,
I won't ask which one it was, but oh my gosh.
He wanted nothing to do with my sister or myself. He's like, don't even contact me.
But this wasn't your real dad.
No.
It didn't turn out to be the right dad. Like you were barking up the wrong tree. Yeah.
Yep. And I'm so happy. Who cares if he's run for U.S. president? I want my dad. I got the best dad.
Yeah, right.
I'll take mine any day.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, I spoke with my father for the very first time on my birthday, and I can tell you that I was crying and I was trying to be so brave, and I pinched my inner thigh as hard as I could to get me to stop crying.
Oh
and
my God.
It did not work. I mean, I got myself a big old bruise from it. I just, he doesn't know me. He didn't know anything about me.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask. So it was a complete surprise to find you on his ancestry DNA thing. Okay. But he was happy to find you.
Yes, he was.
Oh. And did he have other children?
He does have a daughter. So I do have another half sister.
Oh, okay.
So I've got 3 half sisters from the maternal side.
Okay.
And 1 half sister from my father's side.
Okay, nice. So that reunion, there's a news clip of your story. I can post that in the show notes if anyone wants to see that. And you do have an amazing resemblance to your dad. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story. But it sounds like your reunion with your dad has been just delightful.
Oh, I could not have asked for anything better.
Aww.
I mean, I was looking for medical because of my granddaughter, one of 140 cases worldwide ever documented in history with her condition. And I needed medical.
Yeah.
So if he needed me to lay low, not say anything, don't contact him again, but here's a medical, that was going to be okay with me. I mean, I was expecting something like that after the guy that was so rude.
Yeah. Oh my God. You were like tippy-toeing, but then he embraced you and was totally fine, right?
Yes. And I cried for the first 6 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
My face was puffy as all get out. I'm really not a crybaby type of a person. I'm pretty hard, but I would go to work. I would start crying. Just a thought would pop in my head. And then all of a sudden I would look down on my phone and there's my dad. Hope you're having a nice day, and I'm like, oh my God. But there's so many, I think it's called synchronicities when you have different timing of things.
Where things really line up kind of magically.
Yeah. And so I would be listening to Papa Was a Rolling Stone by George Michaels, because that's kind of what I grew up on. My dad would say, hey, check this song out. It would be Papa Was a Rolling Stone by the Temptations. And I was like, I didn't even know that they sang it. I was like, holy smokes. So I'd do a screenshot. Here's another,
Oh my gosh. Wow. And you found different things that you liked the same, or that had the same mannerisms and that kind of thing?
Oh, yes. Eating the same snacks at the same time. The only thing that divides us truly is the Mississippi.
Oh, really? Just geographically?
And I've even told my dad, I said, I think that they should study adoptees, and when they find their parents, just the whole genetic.
Oh, yeah.
My father and I have more DNA than twins.
Wow.
there's just different things, all these synchronicities, there has to be science. I don't think it's the biology. I think it might be the physiology or something, there's something going on here.
Definitely. For sure. I've heard that from so many different reunion stories that there's these uncanny things that are in common. It's like, wow, that's so wild. Wow. Oh, I'm so happy that you had that great reunion with your dad. That just warms my heart. It's not too often that there's really great, happy reunion and adoption stories. So yay, we can put one in the happy column.
Yes.
Yay. And then, so what happened with your birth certificate then regarding your dad?
Yes, my birth certificate. This is my original birth certificate.
Can you explain what that is? Because I think the OBC is common acronym in adoptee world, but maybe people don't know what that is.
Sure. So let me say it this way. There's several different birth certificates. Most people don't know. And with these several different birth certificates, you can get a short form or a long form. The long form would contain information like what time you were born at. It would just have more information than the short form. The short form is, I don't know if you want to call it a pacifier document, but something that you can hand off to DMV, right? And you can say, here's my birth certificate. They don't care if it's short form or long form.
Okay.
But if you do a passport, you need to do a long form kind of a thing, is my understanding.
Okay.
And so anyways, on my birth certificate, my original pre-adoption birth certificate, and I have to say pre-adoption because those are different than your other OBCs once you've been adopted. Huh. So the father is listed as nothing. It's a blank slate.
Oh, just blank.
So I wanted, the other one says unknown, but this one that I'm speaking of has a blank slate. And I was like, I want to put my father on there.
Yeah.
He's my dad.
Yeah.
And so I called Vital Statistics and I asked them, how much money does it cost? I want to put my dad on my birth certificate. And they said, you can either have your biological mom, because we talked about me being adopted. You can have her call in and then write and have it a court document that he is indeed the father. Okay. And that might work. Well, I'm not speaking with my birth mom. And why would my birth mom put herself in a perjury situation? It's against the law to lie on parentage. Now, she willingly lied on parentage so she could hurry up and get rid of a baby because her fiance was coming home from Vietnam. So any smart woman would not commit perjury. And I can tell you that my birth mom is very smart. Okay. So she wouldn't do that. It's not up to her who goes on my birth certificate since she gave her rights up. It's my birth certificate. The government's job is to govern the birth certificate. It's a vital record. Vital meaning it contains vital information. Yeah. And it needs to contain the truth.
Yeah. You'd think that'd be the baseline. No.
No, that's not the baseline. And so anyways, it's basically a figure eight and a go around. And it's hard enough for adoptees in states where you can at least get your birth record, right? That's hard enough because a lot of people don't know to ask for the pre-adoption. So they send their $30 in asking for their original birth certificate. And then they get their birth certificate with their adoptive parents on it that they're not even genetically related to most of the times.
That is so weird. That's so weird that they put why do they do that?
Well, this is what adoptees joke about. And I've been saying it for years. Our birth certificates are not accurate records at all, but they're also receipts. So the birth certificate being a receipt basically means property of, right? They can do the tax credits. They can do all that stuff. That's not a birth certificate. That's a property agreement. That's against your 14th Amendment for we the people,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
It talks about slavery and how you cannot take the heritage away and all that. The U.S. Constitution applies to we the people. So even though it specifically is talking about slaves, it also is talking about we the people. But our birth certificates become receipts. And, I joke all the time that Cabbage Patch birth certificates are more accurate than mine.
Wow.
And that car transfer title loans are more accurate than mine because they have the accurate VIN number on there.
Right.
And I'm just like, this is crazy. And this is all for just the truth.
And on a title transfer, isn't the seller and the buyer listed?
Yes.
So that's also, they take away the birth family completely on these birth certificates and put the adoptive parents in the, it's like, oh God, it's so many layers of just wrongness.
It is.
Oh, it's terrible.
It is. And what they truly, if adoption is truly for the child, right? Not for the adoptive parents, for the child, then the child should be entitled to their original biological parents.
Yep.
And then add in their adoptive parents.
Yep.
If adoption isn't an ugly thing, then why not and have that inclusion?
Yeah.
And then Europe started doing that. And I was like, good on them.
All right, Europe. Okay. I wonder how long that will take for us to pick that up.
I think I'll start it next in my state.
Okay, nice. Well, you got one other thing to do first, but good. Go keep going with your story about your dad.
Yeah, so my dad is awesome. He lives in Alabama, of all places.
Alabama, okay.
I'm in Salem, Oregon. It's a long way.
It's like kitty corner from you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think it's 3,500 miles or something. But in 5 years, I've flown out there. I think it's been 8-9 times.
Oh, wow.
And he's been here to Oregon. So anytime I can spend with my dad, I want to spend it with him.
And what did he say when you said you wanted to put him on your birth certificate?
Oh, he's all for it. Yeah. He's all for it. Yeah. And the first bill here in Oregon, House Bill 2482, that was represented by Mr. Neerman.
This is your creation, right?
This is my proposed House bill. Yeah. So anyways, we named that bill after my father.
Aww. Nice.
Yeah. And it got put on hold. It made it through the Judiciary Committee, and then it got put on hold because government agencies stepped in and said, we haven't had these conversations.
Oh.
So I facilitated conversations and told them, what's the hang up? Let me go ahead and help you. Do you want me to read the policies? Right? Because I can read the policies. I know how to put 2 and 2 together. Just because something isn't included in a policy, right? Doesn't mean that it should be excluded.
Right.
And why are we excluding the truth?
Yeah.
My father never signed his rights away.
He didn't know about you at all. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we decided to do for like a pacifier was in Oregon, the LGBT community. And I know that there's more letters, but I'm naive and I don't know the rest of those letters.
Okay. Yeah, LGBT's most of them.
But I just cannot thank them enough for just the whole basic act of love. The love for the children, the love for the family, the love for inclusion of 3 parents, right? Because of their hard work, I was able to piggyback on that with my father. And I have my adoptive mother, and I have my adoptive father, and I have my biological father. So it's called tri-party adoption. Not every state has it, but my progressive state does.
Yeah.
And my attorney, Aaron Perez, who says that I can use his name wherever I go. Okay. In fact, he has said that if somebody calls, he would give them a free, what's it called, a consultation or whatever. Oh,
nice. All right.
Yeah.
Aaron
for this adoption.
So
really nice man.
Help me understand this. So LGBTQ people, they want to have a child. So they adopt a child or have it through surrogacy or however they do that. And they're like, hey, the one that's not involved in the actual biology of the birth wants to be on the birth certificate. So they said, hey, I want to be on this too. And so they fought to get this tri-party birth certificate. Is that sum that up pretty well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you were like, or this lawyer, God bless him, was it his idea or your idea?
It was his idea. I didn't know anything about it. I had called and asked him and told him, And he listened to me, right? He took the time and he listened to me, and he knew the importance. I expressed the importance to me. And so anyways, well, he says, I've never heard of this happening in the state of Oregon for a parent to be put onto an original birth certificate. And he said, let me call around. So he called a bunch of lawyers and said, what about this? And they're like, no. And then, so he called another one. They said, well, why don't, try the tri-party adoption. And so my attorney called me back after he had already told me no, called me back and said, hey, guess what? I got something for you. And I was like, what? And he told me what it was. And I said, oh, wow, that's going to go over well. My adoptive father, I mean, there's just no way. I mean, straight up Archie Bunker. I mean, there's no way. And then my adoptive mom, we grew up in the church, and I was just, and then my dad, he's just like, hey, whatever, I want to be on your birth certificate. And I was like, but I want you on my birth certificate. And so my attorney went for it and got turned down the first time by a judge and didn't tell me. He put it right back through the next day and said, this is going to be a yes, because this is the truth. This is the right thing. This is the tri-party adoption. She qualifies because, that's what you can do, is you can ask for this tri-party adoption. And it was granted. Wow. So the first case in Oregon that has used this tri-party adoption in this fashion, there's plenty of couples that have used it, LGBTQ but in this fashion.
Yeah. Wow. And you thought your adoptive parents wouldn't like it because it was an LGBT derived thing.
Well, we just kind of left that one out.
We just don't say those letters in that order, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. I understand. But were they happy for you at all that you got that? No, not at all.
No, they weren't, but my adoptive mom had to agree to it in order for it to happen, right? Because they have purchaser rights.
What? What about her rights?
Purchasing rights.
Jesus.
And so they had to agree to it. And that was, the attorney didn't say purchasing rights. The attorney said, your parents have to agree to it. So my mom was the spokesmodel, and she agreed to it. And after, when it happened and became so, she said, honey, what does this mean?
Oh my God. So she didn't really know what it was. Oh my God. Well, you're lucky she signed it. What if she wouldn't have signed it?
I don't know if she signed it or if she verbally okayed it, but she verbally, I know she verbally okayed it to me because I had to explain it to her. And then she was upset because she was told that my father did sign his rights.
Oh,
and
so many lies in that operation.
And so she was upset about that. And I told her, I said, Mom, this is where we're at right now. Because they knew that I had snuck behind their back to go find my birth mother. I had called my caseworker.
But you're 50 years old at this point, right? 50, like you're not a child.
Yeah, okay, exactly. And I hadn't used their last name other than Facebook, but I hadn't used their last name legally since I got married to my first husband. Okay. So, and that was back when I was 19 years old. So
no one could find them or anything like that. But your second name is your birth dad's name, right? Weaver? Is that your birth dad's name? So you added that in as your middle name, right?
I did. Well, it's a hyphenated last name.
Oh, it's hyphenated last name. Okay.
So I found him through Ancestry on January 5th, talked to him on the 6th. It just so happened to be Valentine's Day of all times. I took time off of work during lunch, ran down to the courthouse and went through the checkpoints and all that, went into the family law thing. And I thought I was going to have to post my name or my information for, 30 days or something, I think is what I heard.
Yeah, in the newspaper or something. Yeah, no?
Yeah. And so I didn't. It was less than 24 hours. It was a court-signed docket, and it was a legal action that was taken, and that Weaver was added to my name, through the court. So when I went and met my father for the first time in person, I was already a Weaver because I went 2 days after that.
Oh my gosh.
Left for Alabama. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Oh my gosh. That is so great. Now, what is your bill trying to get then? So how is what you already got, the tri-party thing? How's that different from the bill you're trying to push through that?
Yeah. So the bill that I'm pushing through this time, which currently I think is LC0780. It hasn't been assigned yet a bill number, but I'm sure just as soon as I get off this podcast with you, I'll probably have the email, with the number.
We can update the notes. That's no problem.
What it is a bill to allow my father to go onto my original pre-adoption birth certificate where it has my birth mom, the time I was born, the short form, the long form, and to have my father on there. Because he's not unknown. Yeah. He is known and he's mine. And so what it's going to do is it's going to make me whole. It's going to make me complete. It's going to be the only truth in my life that I started off with, minus the birth date.
Yeah, right. Oh, they still won't fix the birth date?
No.
While they're at it, can they just change that one
you
number?
You would think.
No. And this will affect other people as well. So everyone in the state would be able to have the correct information on their birth certificate.
Yes.
And I think you told me you said they had to pay like $100 or something.
That's exactly what I did. I wanted the state of Oregon to know that. Thank you for your time, number one, right? Because Oregon will be the first state out of the 50 if it passes.
Wow.
I know that time is worth money, right? And it's our government.
Yeah.
So I said that I would like a normal birth certificate is like $35 in my state, right?
Okay.
These people have to send off to archives, come back, do the data entry, send it back, And so I thought $100 would be fair.
Yeah. That's a lot better than $25,000, but it still sucks that you have to pay more than the regular kind, but I understand.
I'll take the hit.
That's generous of you. Very generous of you. Well, good luck with that bill. Hopefully it'll go through this year. And just keep me posted about that. That's amazing. And why is it so important for adoptees to have their correct information? What does it do for you knowing that at least part of your birth certificate now is correct? How does it change you, or does it?
It validates when you take away a person's truth and their information, it means that they are worthless and that they're not worth the time, the energy. And it happens to us when we don't have a voice, right? It happens to us when we're young for the most part.
Yeah.
Even if it was a teenager, right? It's still that you still don't have a voice,
For sure.
And so taking that away from us means that not only were we given away, someone has decided who doesn't even know us or who we've grown up to be or what we are, it just takes away that validity.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that they have those practices and that they had those practices. I'm really proud of my state. My state, and I think it was 1996, implemented a database. So if someone said that they didn't know who the dad was, or if they claimed the wrong dad, which happens all the time, there's a database where these people can enter in their DNA.
Oh, okay.
And then they can make those corrections for those that are under 18.
Oh, nice.
And you know what? I'm really proud that they did that because people like me, they can have theirs corrected.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. Good job, Oregon. Now, I know that everyone listening who's adopted or who might have an adoptee in their life that they want to help, they want to hire you to help them with this process. Are you helping others do this? Like, you seem like you're so good at it, know how to navigate these vital records, crazy people.
We'll just say that probably it was some boredom, some education, and some OJT. But I have helped people navigate their own stuff that they're looking for, not necessarily the vital records, but for their parents.
Oh, okay.
People have asked me, well, how do you get that information? Well, you get it through vital records,
Okay.
That's what's there. I've spoken to vital records in almost every state because when I first started calling my vital records, everything was peachy. Well, then I called back with another question. Well, then it became a little bit more reserved on giving me information. So then I was like, okay, so somewhere around here, I have a notebook of all the states that I called and who I spoke with and on what date.
Okay.
And let me tell you, the man in Alaska, I thought I was going to be talking to like a policy analyst or something like that. I think it was the director of vital records. And I was shocked. I was like, oh my gosh, he said, well, when you work for a small state like I am and you're calling and you have these questions, he said, I like to take those. And I was like, well, thank you so much for your time. He was super duper nice. I couldn't believe it. I didn't burn my bridge there or outdo my welcome.
Oh, that's so funny. That's good. So are you willing to work with other people, or like if people wanted to get a hold of you, or do you want to just work with your friends? Or
No, I've helped strangers before, right? And then became friends.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them, I just wished them well and they were on their merry way, right?
Uh-huh.
I had an uncle of mine in Texas who, I don't know if he went and bought a sleep mattress bed or whatever, but this guy was selling him a bed and somehow adoption came out, or not knowing who his father was or something like this. So I went ahead and took a day and found his father for him, hooked him up with his sister on Facebook, and he's still on my Facebook. I won't say his name, but every now and then I comment on a post of his or like it or something.
Oh,
but
cool.
Yeah, my uncle asked me to help and I said, okay, because, what are you going to tell? No.
Yeah, no. Well, you seem to be really good at it. Do you want to let us know what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Probably just on Facebook. If they're going to use Messenger, because they would show up in my, I don't know what it's called, but where you're not friends or something like that.
Yeah.
I would ask them to put the very first word adoption so that I know, oh, this is related to the podcast. This is someone that wants my help. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I would like that.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'll make sure and put your Facebook name on the notes. So is there anything else you'd like to say that I haven't asked you about?
No, I just wish everyone luck. We have one life to live. Don't be shy. Go out there and get what it is that you're looking for. It's yours.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I know that your talk will embolden a lot of adoptees to go get what they absolutely deserve, which is their own correct information. And I hope this educates a lot of people, maybe even people who aren't in the adoption world are listening and they're like, what? It's so ludicrous when you first hear about it. I'm like, what? So I hope this opens a lot of people's eyes and maybe gives some people some ideas in your own state to go do some work. So thank you so much for being on and for helping us with all this information, Ann.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And please find Unraveling Adoption on social media. Our website is unravelingadoption.com. We do have a Patreon if you're interested in supporting our commercial-free podcast. It's patreon.com/unravelingadoption. And we are just so glad you listened in. Please share this episode with anyone you think might be helped by this. And Ann and I want you all to stay safe.